What's up, everyone? It's September the 11th, 2024, as I'm recording this. Podcast's been off for 2 weeks, getting ready to come back up. Just wanted to update everyone with that. I got some guests in the hopper, and we are going to for some excitement. So I just want to jump in and just do a little just a 9/11 episode. I wanted to share my role that I had. I was working as task force in law enforcement on 9/11. And my day started, we had been out the night before. And so I got a phone call the next morning from the girl I was dating, and she's like, "Hey, wake up, time to go and check the TV. There's something going on in New York." So as I turned the TV on, I was kind of sitting there watching, and the second plane hit the towers. Just kind of watching the smoke from the first one. Everybody was talking about it. Didn't have the back then we didn't have the connection that we do now, right? We were on analog phones, digital phones with texting wasn't a thing. We didn't have the camera capability. And so the footage that you see a lot of times throughout the day was either camcorder or news footage, things along those lines, security footage. We didn't have the access to the technology we do now, so no one knew. The information didn't travel as fast. It was faster than the 90s, but it was still at a slower pace than the way that we find out things today. So today's everything's very instant. You get something's going on, you got videos, people are sharing it right off the bat. Back then, that wasn't the case. So we have that. I got up, got dressed, checked in with the guys, and everybody's like, "We don't know what we're doing yet." Everybody's watching it unfold. So I lived a couple blocks from my local department, so I went there, and everybody was hovered around a TV inside of our one of our meeting rooms upstairs. And when we were there is when the first tower fell. And as I watched that and saw the faces in the room, reconnected with, I don't think we were using Nextel. So if you remember, this is pre-Nextel. So I just remember calling my teammates and just saying, "All right, what are we doing?" It's like, "Don't know yet. Just meet at the office." And that was our plan. So we can convene at the office. And the first day there was a lot of uncertainty. And then on 9/11, we just got together and we just kind of watched everything unfold together between the Pentagon, the buildings, Pennsylvania, and start scrolling today and sharing things on my social media and other posts of first responders and the aftermath of 9/11 was our military response, and just friends that I've connected with over the years. And I've never really shared with a lot of people that what my role was back then, because I've moved on into business and gym ownerships and all those things like along those lines. So but it's something that as time has gone on, I think the further I get away from that moment and seeing how the world is somewhat desensitized because it didn't happen in their lifetime, and our young community doesn't know the impact that day because they weren't there. And the only thing we can give them is our stories and the things that we witnessed and we felt and that we saw, and just pass that along to them. I think it's kind of what led me to record this just short moment and short interaction with everyone, is just to share, the things that I got to work on being there. We had by the next few days we deployed and just we worked with multiple agencies and just started investigating anything that we can investigate. We went through threat assessments very quickly on like, all right, what is our exposure here? And the town that we're in is not the city that we're in was not as it's not New York or Boston. So it's a smaller scale city, but still has its own exposures and its people. Anytime you have people, you have exposure. So we worked on projects along those lines, and then just talking to people, and just following up on leads, and just whatever we could do to support the overall mission. Um, when you scroll and you just look at the tributes, that's kind of what I was sitting here doing, just getting some thoughts in my mind. And as those buildings fell, it's like there's a post here is just talking about the contributions of the K9 teams that went in to help find survivors that day. Um, just and as I'm looking here, is it's it's crazy because when the news come on that morning is we're looking at smoke coming out of a building, and then we watched almost live. I think it was live. Uh, the second plane strike. So, and then there was no footage of Pentagon, and then there was the uncertainty of flight, a flight that went down in Pennsylvania. So it's uncertainty there. There's the news was reporting that, and then a short time later we find out that that plane had crashed in Pennsylvania, and in the days that follow that, you see the pictures, you see the handheld videos, and the time that it took that information to make its way out into the mainstream media and into um, our hands, and the wreckage that they were sorting through, and the lines, and just everything that like I say, it's instant now that we get to see. Um, it's just absolutely it's a moment in time that I really stop and pause. And if you meet Tim Brown, yeah, and Paul Conway, and some of the folks, and Kenny Mitchell, and friends in public safety, but Paul, Milwaukee fire chief, and then Tim Brown is a responder that day. He's in Building 1 talking to his team, and if you're not following Tim and Paul, make sure you are. Those are two. Tim is a guy that I've been able to connect with through our speaking engagement that we had, and just get to know him a little more. And he spoke at a group that I'm in, and just shared his story. And man, I tell you, it is a story that I can't not. I could listen to him tell it every time, and it'll move every single time that he just talks about. And I think he's around 100 of his coworkers, like his direct coworkers that day that perished in this event, and for him to have those moments with them leading into what was coming. It's just it's something I just can't wrap my head around. And then out of that, you get to hear these stories of these quiet voices that helped everyone find um, an exit. ESPN's rerunning their story on the man in the red bandana. That is a story that is worth listening to. I got some things that I bookmarked that when I get done, I'm going to go back and look at that. And it's when you scroll and you see the replays of the planes hitting those buildings, and If you've never flown before, if you ever get out near your airport, if you live near a big airport, you'll see how big those planes are, um, how massive these objects were that struck those buildings. Um, it's it's just that this platform and where I'm at allows me just to record some moments, um, just to talk about uh, what being a responder on 9/11 and being able to contribute, and how had I not been able to, of how helpless I would probably feel right now, just knowing me. Uh, But to just play that small little role and know that there was thousands upon thousands of other responders, first responders, that were initially keeping their community safe and going to work in some capacity and just giving that their communities hope and being the hope dealer that a lot of our public safety professionals are called on to be. You, and sometimes that gets overlooked. Is as much as we say we'll never forget, we need to make sure that we don't forget them, because they have a stressful job. And as much as everyone wants to say, well, they knew the responsibility when they got into it, well, you sometimes working in public safety is like taking punches to the face. You know what you're getting into as a fighter, but man, they just keep coming and they start to hurt over time. And it's hard to take a break. So I always kind of get a little bit of grace goes a long way for most situations I've learned, especially as I'm nearing the ripe old age of 50. So, um, just filled with gratitude today to have played a role, filled with gratitude for the folks that are contributors, our military, first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs. Um, Very grateful for them and just really keeping all of the folk in my thoughts and prayers. Um, Today, especially every day, try to throw out some positive vibes to anyone that's affected by tragedy or uh, bad vibes. Um, so I think that's the start of what I'd like to tell over time. Um, I just didn't want this day to get away without putting something down. So make sure, um, later in life in business, every 9/11, I do some teaching and instructions. You guys know some of that, right? So I do workshops, but like one of the things I would do at my business, the business that I ran, was every 9/11 we did OCRA training. We went through all of our safety checks. We went through all of our, when I was at the dealership, we went through all of our OSHA, you know, had my firefighter buddies come through and do a walkthrough just to make sure their fire inspections are up to date. Check your extinguishers. Go through your safety plan. Go through your exit plan. Um, having a plan, and we didn't plan for 9/11. We do a better job at those things now, but just having a plan in your life and inside of your business. As I exited out of public safety, I still use the same concepts, right? It's not like we're reinventing the wheel. So when you're inside of your business and you're working inside the business and you're like me, and I started feeling lost when 9/11 would come around. I'm like, I'm not around my police buddies. I'm over my fireman buddies and or firefighter buddies. I'm not around my public safety friends, and I was in a whole new setting. So I had to figure out a way to give myself positive purpose on that day. And the purpose I was is just helping and planning, uh, training, simple stuff, and just trying to pass along some of the high level skills that I learned, and getting them into a manner that the secretary up front could understand when things are getting bad. And having some setting some on fire and putting it out with a fire extinguisher. You'd be surprised how many people's never done that. If you never pulled the pins on a fire extinguisher, okay, get your staff, have someone come out and do fire extinguisher training with you. Your local fire department will probably do that for you. How many of you, and I've done this, make sure it's okay in your where you live, how many of you have called 911 just to see if they know where you are? If you called 911 today in your business, would 911 say, yes, you're located where you're supposed to be? And I tell you that because when we relocated into a new address, the phone still had us at our old address. So we had to update all that. We had to add, there was a snafu, and then we had multiple lines, and the multiple lines were forwarding lines, so the address was associated with Verizon's switch, not our actual business. So if you didn't pick the right line to dial 911, you got they would, and you were getting robbed, or the place is burning down, and you couldn't stay on the phone. They're sending help to the Verizon switch, not to us. So lessons learned. So think about that. As we close out here in just a big day of remembrance. And if I was going to give you some advice, and if you want to take it as plan, if you're at home, make a plan. House catches on fire. How are we getting out? Just have a contingency plan for a scenario, and just walk through it. Like, all right, if this happened, this is what we would do. So just make sure. And I think if you're find yourself lost on 9/11, is giving yourself some purpose to plan. It's just a great way to occupy and absolutely be part of the greater good. So, thinking about everyone today, heart is heavy, and but it's also positive. And I've been able to connect with a lot of good people that was out there that day, and uh, Danny Fur, I always mess his name up, Danny. Sorry. It's a Pentagon responder. Got Jason Redmond, the local guys there that I worked with, that are not in the limelight of speaking like some of us are, that know who I'm talking about. Appreciate them. The old group that I worked with, I messaged a handful of those guys this morning just to thank them and let them know that I really appreciate being a part of their team. And I appreciate you guys letting me be on your team. So connect with me. Let me know. This message resonates with you. Shoot me a message over on Instagram at Jeff or Robertson, Rabason, which ain't even my real name. I'm just kidding. It ain't. All right, y'all. Thank you. If you hear this and you made it 18 minutes and 41 seconds, text or call one of your firefighter buddies. Just let them know you're thinking about them today. Text one of your EMT friends, one of your military folks, and just let them know how much you appreciate it. And you guys have a good one, and I look forward to getting these new guests out to you. All right, talk to you soon.